Right, let's jump into another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at Sweets. It's an unpublished novel
Oh, wow.
by Malik Metcalf. We've got excerpts, the first 6 chapters.
Yeah.
And I got to say, it's a pretty intense read.
Okay.
Yeah. It's gritty realism.
Uh-huh.
Lots of dialogue. You really get pulled into the world of these characters.
I like that.
Yeah. So we're going to meet James and Desmond.
Okay.
And these 2 young men are making some pretty questionable choices.
Right.
And our mission today is to try to figure out what makes these guys tick.
All right.
What leads them down this path as the story unfolds.
I love it. Let's dive in. I'm excited.
So right away in chapter 1, we meet James.
Okay.
He's our protagonist.
All right.
And he's a bit of an enigma. You know, he seems really bored with life, almost jaded.
Yeah.
And he gets his kicks from pushing boundaries, breaking the law even.
Right. Like he's looking for something.
Yeah, you get the sense that he's always searching for that next adrenaline rush.
Right.
Anything is better than feeling nothing at all.
Exactly.
But there's also this manipulative side of him, too.
Oh.
Like he's attending therapy.
Okay.
But he admits to the therapist that he's mainly there for the chance of getting financial aid.
Interesting.
So it makes you question, how sincere he's actually being.
Right. Yeah. Like what's his motivation, really?
Exactly. And that ties into, I think, a key aspect of James's personality. He really hates feeling vulnerable.
Uh-huh.
There's this line where he says he can't even be passionate about anything unless he's intoxicated.
Wow.
So it seems like he uses this thrill-seeking and this manipulation as a shield,
Yeah.
against actually having to connect with someone genuinely.
Like a defense mechanism.
Yeah, totally.
Interesting.
So then we meet Desmond,
Okay.
his best friend.
All right.
And Desmond comes from, like, a wealthy family.
Okay.
Total opposite of James's background.
Got it.
And he's a bit naive, maybe even easily influenced. And you can see how James holds a certain sway over him.
Uh-huh.
Their dynamic really comes through in this student bar scene.
Okay.
Desmond's impulsive.
Right.
And he's generous.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fueled by his easy access to money, right?
Of course. Yeah.
That plays a role in their shared habits.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking, drugs, you name it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
They're doing it.
It's interesting, that dynamic. It's almost like James resents that Desmond has this privilege, but he also can't resist taking advantage of it, right?
Totally.
And that financial disparity between them, it's like that sets the stage for a really volatile power dynamic, I think.
Yeah, and there's even a point where James is suggesting that he should move into Desmond's apartment.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can already sense the shift starting to happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then there's this bus ride home
Mm-hmm.
that speaks volumes. James is so uncomfortable being around other people. It just reinforces his preference for isolation. Unless, of course, he's had a few drinks to loosen up.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So chapter 2 then kind of dives deeper into their routine, and it reveals more about their personalities, right?
Exactly. The wine store, the chicken shop, it all seems so familiar, almost ritualistic.
Yeah.
It's like they're on autopilot, just going through the motions to get ready for another night out.
Just like clockwork.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
But this time, Desmond is really anxious about the drug dealer. And it highlights, his naivete
Yeah.
and how much he relies on James to just solve their problems for them.
Right.
And James, of course, he comes up with a solution.
Okay.
It's very clever, but it's also very manipulative,
Uh-huh.
which, again, shows how James thrives in these kinds of situations.
Right. He seems to like that control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's interesting, the chicken shop.
Yeah.
Metcalf keeps bringing them back to this setting
Okay.
that seems to represent their comfort zone.
Okay. Yeah.
Like their way of coping with the stress
Right.
and the chaos that they create.
That makes sense.
So speaking of chaos, things get really interesting in chapter 3.
Oh, okay.
The party scene is so vividly described,
Yeah.
you're practically transported there.
Wow.
The pounding music, the drugs, the awkward conversations.
Sounds about right for a party.
And then there's Jamil, the drug dealer.
Okay.
He's not the intimidating figure you might expect.
No.
He's actually surprisingly unassuming.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, and it's like a deliberate subversion of expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And it adds this whole other layer of intrigue to their world.
Okay.
And we see how much Desmond relies on Jamil,
Yeah.
not just for the drugs, but for, like a sense of belonging, maybe even validation.
Right.
Remember that annoying girl? that Desmond keeps trying to impress.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like he's searching for that same validation, like he's trying to buy his way into coolness.
Yeah.
But his reliance on Jamil just strengthens that dynamic we've been seeing.
Right.
Desmond, with his money,
Yeah.
enabling James's manipulative tendencies.
So then chapter 4 happens.
Oh, yeah.
Throws a major wrench into their world.
Yeah.
Police raid.
That's right.
Wow. Okay.
It's a total turning point in the story.
Yeah.
Really raises the stakes.
Yeah.
And it pushes their contrasting personalities to the forefront.
Okay, how so?
Well, James stays totally calm under pressure,
Okay.
but Desmond completely panics.
Ah, yeah.
And then in this moment of pure impulsivity, Desmond steals this bag of drugs.
Oh, wow. That's a big decision.
Yeah, it's a huge decision.
Yeah.
And it could have disastrous consequences.
Right, of course.
And of course, where do they go to process this trauma?
Where else? The chicken shop.
Exactly. Right back to the chicken shop.
Back to comfort.
Food seems to be their go-to coping mechanism. We're starting to see a pattern here.
Totally. Yeah. So, but Desmond's theft, this just plunges them deeper into trouble. Chapter 5, we see him just spiraling. Paranoia, fueled by the cocaine,
Mm-hmm.
desperation, impulsivity.
Yeah.
And James, though he's frustrated, he's trying to calm him down.
Yeah, he's trying.
But then we get this first hint of trouble that goes beyond the drug situation.
Oh.
Desmond's financial dependence on his parents. He gets this letter, and it foreshadows, a huge shift in their power dynamic.
Wow.
The ending of chapter 5,
Yeah.
brilliant cliffhanger.
Oh, yeah.
Jamil's arrest brings this moment of relief, but there's this lingering sense of unease.
Yeah.
Like you just know something else is about to happen.
Totally.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's a classic dilemma, isn't it? Desmond, he's been stripped of his financial safety net.
Mhm.
He's suddenly exposed, vulnerable.
Totally.
And James, always the opportunist, might see this as his chance to exploit that.
Yeah. Their whole dynamic is completely flipped.
Right.
It's Desmond who needs James now,
Exactly.
not the other way around.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if their friendship can even withstand this kind of pressure.
It's a good question. What really strikes me is that Metcalf doesn't shy away from the complexities of their relationship.
Right.
There's genuine affection there, but there's also resentment, manipulation, and a heavy dose of codependency.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And their shared addiction just adds another layer to the whole thing.
Right.
It's like the drugs fuel their bad decisions.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, they create this bond between them, this twisted bond.
It's a vicious cycle, Metcalf captures that perfectly.
Yeah.
The highs and the lows, the paranoia, the desperation, it's all there on the page.
You really feel it.
And as readers, we're just caught in this push and pull.
Mm-hmm.
We're repulsed by their self-destructive behavior.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're fascinated by this downward spiral.
Absolutely. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. You know it's going to be bad,
Right.
but you can't look away.
And that ending of chapter 6.
Oh, man.
True cliffhanger. Desmond's proposition to pay the rent themselves using stolen drugs.
It's a lot.
It's loaded with implications, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Suggests a descent into even riskier territory.
Right.
Maybe even criminal activity.
Yeah. It's like he's offering James a partnership, but it's one built on desperation
Yeah.
and potentially dangerous consequences.
Exactly.
So we're left wondering, will James take the bait? And if he does, what price will they both have to pay?
These first 6 chapters are so compelling because Metcalf really leaves us with more questions than answers.
For sure.
We're invested in these characters, flawed as they are.
Yeah.
And we're just left on the edge of our seats wanting to know what fate has in store for them.
I know. I'm completely hooked. It's like Metcalf has given us this glimpse into a dark and captivating world,
Yeah.
and I can't wait to see where he takes us next.
What's so brilliant about Sweets is that Metcalf uses these very specific situations with James and Desmond
Mm-hmm.
to explore larger themes that I think resonate with all of us.
Oh, totally.
He's holding up a mirror to our own desires, impulses, asking us to confront the choices we make when we're faced with these difficult circumstances.
Makes you think, how far would you go to maintain a certain lifestyle?
Right.
Where do you draw the line between loyalty to a friend and protecting yourself?
Exactly.
These are questions we all grapple with, even if the stakes aren't as high as they are for James and Desmond.
And what makes Metcalf's writing so effective is that he doesn't offer easy answers. He presents these characters with all their flaws, contradictions, and he leaves it to us to judge them.
Yeah.
Or maybe even empathize with them.
It's like he's saying, Here's the situation. Now what would you do?
Right.
There's this underlying tension, this sense of impending doom
Yeah,
that keeps you on the edge of your seat. You want to know what happens next, but you're almost afraid to find out.
absolutely. That ending, though, with Desmond holding that bag of stolen drugs, proposing they pay the rent themselves, it's chilling, you know?
Yeah.
It suggests there's no going back, like a point of no return.
A potential descent into this criminal underworld could swallow them both.
Like he's dangling this forbidden fruit in front of them.
Right.
And we're left wondering, will they give in to temptation?
Yeah.
Will this be the final straw that breaks their bond? It's already fragile.
I think what Metcalf is doing here, he's exploring the nature of free will.
Mm.
You know,
Oh,
the consequences of our choices, that line between right and wrong, it gets blurry.
it really does.
He's prompting us to think about what we would do. When we're faced with these impossible odds, would we compromise our values, betray a friend, or would we rise above it all somehow?
It's a lot to unpack.
It is.
But that's what makes this novel, even just these first 6 chapters, so captivating.
Yeah.
Metcalf's writing, it's raw,
Yeah.
honest, thought-provoking. He doesn't shy away from the darkness.
Right.
But he also hints at this possibility of redemption, of finding a better path.
What stays with me is the ambiguity of it all.
Yeah. We're left to this question. What becomes of James and Desmond? Do they spiral further into this chaos, or do they find a way out? It's Metcalf leaves that for us to think about.
Right.
And it's a question that I think is going to stick with us long after we finish reading.
Absolutely. Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you to contemplate the complexities of friendship, ambition, and the choices we make when faced with temptation. Until next time, keep diving deep.